Just wanted to start by thanking Steve for a very nice lecture and a nice final words, which are connecting nicely with what I'm kind of starting with, because apart from being from Iceland and living in Norway, I'm leading a studio in Oslo, in Norway, with two partners, Sami Rintala and Dagur Eggertsson. And we have over the years dealt with the question of architecture and civilization, more or less, like basically starting with our discussion during architecture studies. Why are we studying this in the first place? And kind of the same thing that everybody goes through when they kind of realize it's a kind of big field, and why did we end up with this? It's too complex, and do we really want to do this? And this kind of led us to more or less centering our discussions around anthropology. So kind of and we kind of return to the anthropological questions all the time in our projects, and that is connecting very well with what you are doing with this conference. That how have we been doing things over the centuries, and what has it led to? In many ways, we have been kind of fed with industrialized solutions in architecture. It's been kind of what you learn in building technology, structural classes. You do this and that, and you end up with something that is beautiful, and it has this name. This bridge has this kind of name, and your design is accepted. But there is a kind of disruption that's taking place there, because this is actually only a kind of 200-year history of architectural approach. Before that, most of architecture had been dealing with quite hands-on solutions. You had to define the language of the material. You had to find ways to do things out of a very scarce means or material world around you. And the language of the material is actually a small reference to Steve, because I was working there one summer on the City Hall project, and it kind of came as an awakening to me that every language has a language, and we need to kind of decipher that language, learn that language in order to kind of make it work with other materials, and make kind of work with that kind of logic that is inherent in that material, which leads to interesting topics about the physics of materials and the kind of thermology of materials and so on. So this is a kind of a huge world that's kind of resting within the material. And industrial topography is the theme of the conference, is very much there in the cultural landscape. The industrial landscape and the cultural landscape are basically the two parts of the same thing. It's about how we as human beings left a mark on our surroundings. And if we go back to Icelandic landscape again, this is quite in many ways what you connect with Iceland. it is and how the Icelandic cultural landscape has come about is after the grazing of sheep over the centuries and the human beings that were creating conditions for the sheep to thrive in that landscape, because Iceland is too Arctic to kind of grow many kinds of grain and vegetables. You have to do it inside the greenhouses. But in Iceland, you grow grass for the cattle and the sheep to produce meat and milk or dairy products in general. And in Norway, the valleys also very much a product of the grazing of animals. But these things are changing very much in the northern territories. We have all the fish farming, which is taking a lot of area from the fjords and creating a lot of problems for the biology of the seas, of the fjords and the coastline. And then there is the energy harvesting, also creating quite many kind of complex conflicts with the indigenous people in north of Norway. And we are with the outsourcing of industries in the Western world to mostly Asian and African countries. One is kind of seeing a new situation where we are kind of moving industries out of the cities or on towns and into the countryside, like I showed you with the fish farming, or to the other countries. This mountain in particular, Heidelberg Cement Company has kind of offered so many billions of Icelandic crowns to take it away and make concrete out of it for European market, which has been applauded by Icelandic politicians. But this is the kind of scale of things. There are companies like Google and Spotify that are moving into these communities, and they're offering kind of millions of dollars for the pure energy and the pure, like they call it, virgin sand, because there is next to no virgin sand anymore in Europe. So these are the things that are happening. What's kind of creating a small thing we need to be a bit aware of is the fact that this has been taking place in several waves, in a way. We had the Industrial Revolution, which was kind of nobody noticed so much of in the Nordic countries, but early 20th century land that was taken from harbor areas and kind of moving of industry out to the outskirts of cities was going in different waves, and now we are in the outskirts of our towns doing the same thing, but now there is no we don't know what the next step actually is. How can we are we going to keep going with that kind of sprawl, or is this the kind of end of that story? We should think about those things. Shall we just repeat what's been taking place in the 20th century and kind of offer the same kinds of solutions? I'm not quite sure. But what happens is when industry is taken out of the city centers or out of the cities, there is a lot of room that is being taken for housing, like I was pointing at. but also for recreation. I will show you 5 projects which are, I will begin with projects that have been done in areas where industry was moving out. Beginning with a project in Denmark, floating sauna of Køge. Denmark has been kind of leading the way in the Nordic countries, doing temporary projects as a kind of mobilization of kind of urban kind of renewal and thinking of ways to do things. This is a project south of Copenhagen where they invited artists and small architect practices to kind of test out ideas, and we were given the chance to make a floating sauna in the Køge harbor. Our side was this barge that was had been, or this pontoon that was more or less ready for condemnation, but they decided to fill the gaps and pores and make it as our side. So they continued while we were kind of doing our design with students from landscape architecture and in Copenhagen. They continued welding and of course during the opening we weren't finished at all, like you see, but over the course of 10 days we managed to make a fully working sauna on that barge, and it was working very, very nicely. We even went to art exhibition in Aarhus, and to the Roskilde Music Festival, until one day they didn't know how to fight against the water pouring, and so it basically sank. But it had fulfilled the function. They realized that creating this kind of recreation was something that was sought after. People wanted to use the cold sea, even though it was 6 degrees when we were swimming from the shore to this to test it. People still want it. People still, you find a way, you get yourself a kayak or something to kind of get out into the elements, and that is changing things a bit in the Nordic countries. Before you were staying inside, and Steve made me think about, in his lecture, a word that has been adopted into English, gluggaveður, the window weather, where you are just sitting by the window and enjoying the weather from the inside, because it is looking beautiful, but it's damn cold outside. Things are changing a little bit there. People are kind of going out hiking and doing more things, and we saw things happening with the collapse of the banks. Nobody had the chance to travel anymore to foreign countries, so they had to explore what they had in Iceland. This is another recreational project. This is an image of the town of Moss from the 20s, where there was harbor industry, boat building, repair shops, small industry, milling factories. But in the 60s and the 70s, they had to create this layer of housing development out towards the river, or the river outside, and and suddenly they had this barrier that nobody knew what to do with except the inhabitants of that area. They were, of course, very happy to get a kind of fantastic view out on the water, but nobody was using the parks that they had created there. We won a competition for developing first another area, but we were given this one in the end. And were asked to propose structures, art installations to kind of complete the park and create something that people could use, basically. So we had been discussing different kinds of facilities, including sauna, of course. And the other one was a diving tower, and that's what they got in the end. We decided to work with the main access towards the city, which are these. They were already in the urban plan, although one of them was disrupted by the railway in the 30s. That was a bit earlier on, but anyway, it was these were the two main axes towards the main square and the town hall up in the town. Some work drawings, because this was an art project, so we got just a lump sum. You get this to build the whole thing. So we did everything. We had to do our own work drawings, get the engineers to kind of calculate everything, and we did workshops with the architecture students to kind of solve details and figure out interesting ways of solving things, and then had the foundations done, galvanized, and then the bearing structure was taken to the site by a company that prefabricated them in the south of Norway. And in the end, we spent the whole autumn of 2020, when everybody was isolating due to COVID. We were outside playing around with these building elements. Yeah, these are just a few sketches of staircases and things that we were, solutions we were working on. And the doors we made ourselves at the office out of very beautiful Norwegian oak. And this is the final result. And so there is a learning from this. It is interesting to go into these layers of history and make permanent projects in this case, because the previous projects had many of them had been temporary projects, and people didn't mind so much what was going on. This time we got really kind of fierce fighting by the residents of these neighboring buildings. So that's something to bear in mind, that these layers we are creating, they are creating kind of emotional layers as well. This is a project that had been going on for a long time in our office until it was all of a sudden brought to our attention that it was finished. We didn't know until we started 2009 doing the project. It is in a former iron mine in south of Norway, Arendal. It's from a period where iron was taken out of the earth by heating the rock and then splashing water on it. So you had to have oak or hardwood to kind of make a lot of fire up against the rock, and then you had to have water, and this was the perfect location for that. They went, so these are the shapes that they managed to harvest from, and since the end of the 18th century, they had just left it, and it had been collecting debris and waste and garbage for over 100 years. So it was unsafe, but they wanted to turn it into an art arena. A weird thing to do because you can't walk on top of it. So we had to make a walkway going through the mines, shown here in a site plan. We proposed a walkway crossing over from the art hall, which is a former cotton factory, and then down to the cave underneath here, and then zigzagging through the canyon or through the gorge to the top, where you get the view back to where you came from. Something like this. Then, 6 years ago, we got the phone call about the project being completed, and apparently they had gone forward without telling us, which is something you normally don't encounter in Norway. We have had it in a Chinese project where we just discovered that it was suddenly in Google Earth there was our project was there, and this happened actually in Norway. The outcome wasn't bad. It was a good architect who did the detailing of our original ideas. Some dispute about the authorship of the whole thing, but it's all been settled now. So we are claiming only the kind of the main idea about the walkways. But yeah, so former industry can be turned into even art installations. It's been used for many sound installations over the years because the acoustics of those mines are very particular. I think this is the second. I will just, since I met with Dan a few weeks ago in Reykjavik, and when I was leading this workshop with Iceland University of the Arts, we did a project in an area called Gufunes, outside of the center of Reykjavik. It's on the municipal land, but it's in an area where they are planning a huge amount of development over the next decades. It started some years ago with the selling of the main halls that were used for fertilizer production, and this winter, when we decided to work on the coast with the students, we became our attention was drawn to towards this beach that was next to the fertilizer production, and they used chalk or kind of the seashells from the bottom of the sea outside of Reykjavik for the fertilizer production. So there was a lot of waste white sand that came out of the production, and they dumped everything out on that black beach, which has now turned yellow. So just a quick showing of the outcome. We did everything from scratch with the students. We did the site measurement, historical analysis, design, and redesign, and detailing. These were first-year students, of course, so we had to do a lot of kind of the computer work for them. One learning I did this spring: don't give the first-year students too ambitious project when it comes to these kind of design-build projects. Anyway, we had good work drawings in the end, and did all the foundations, and we got collaboration with the municipality of Reykjavik, and the wood that you see there is a leftover wood from Steve's building that you saw on the presentation before, from the government of it. So you guys in Studio Granta have taught the contractors to not throw away materials. So there's a huge storage space that they allowed us to visit, to select whatever material we wanted: glass, wood, steel, you name it. They just wanted to share these things, and so we picked some of the wood that was used for the concrete casting, and it was really, really nice to kind of combine it with fresh wood from probably somewhere far away, because next to no wood is growing in Iceland. But it is rewarding to work with one-to-one scale and do things from kind of scratch, and take it to somewhere nobody believed we would get to. And even during the opening, we got 2 former mayors inaugurating the thing. So yeah, and finish with, let me see, finish with a beautiful picture by one of the students. Last project, I'm probably way beyond my time. A project I finished just 3 weeks ago. A project that was kind of lingering for a while. It started with a derelict farm on the east coast, close to Vopnafjörður. It had been a boathouse, the building that we were given. This is quite similar to the situation in the project that Steve was presenting. So these are clients who want to kind of turn this into something. They still don't know what they want to get out of it, and they probably don't have as much money as your clients, but they made a very interesting decision to begin with, and that was to start the whole thing, no matter what it would end up with a sauna in one of the buildings. So this building here was, we did yes, it had been a boathouse, a concrete box where they had been repairing the boat that they had owned on that farm. And so the sauna had to kind of reflect some of that past history. This is the first day of work where we were basically kind of tearing things apart. there was a lot of traditional Icelandic food along the whole project. Let me see. This one is, and then we started creating the foundations, which were following the similar kind of logics, where we were raising the sauna up from the floor as the boat had been kind of floating in that space. So we felt that the sauna had to also float in that space. Entrance platform, a bridge, and the sauna coming up. The wood that is used for the main facade of the sauna was the wood that you saw in the first picture. So this wood is mainly driftwood that they found on the beaches. Some of it is softwood, some of it is amazing oak material that just washed on the shore. And this is the way people have been building over the centuries in Iceland. You just use what you find, even on the seashore. And then final steps, new facade, new window. And in the end, we got the sauna heated 2 o'clock in the morning after the last day of work. And we could travel home. Thank you.